Nation in Conversation, taking you on a journey through the South African countryside. Proudly sponsored by Monsanto, Nedbank and Senves, in association with Hinterland and NWK.
Hello and welcome to Nation in Conversation. We are traveling through the South African countryside, exploring the industries and attractions along the way, including the local produce that remains the heartbeat of each area's existence. Today's journey takes us to the ostrich capital of the world, Oudtshoorn. This is what you can look forward to. In Homegrown, we explore the many attractions and activities in this popular region. We also visit some of the ostrich producers and explore the challenges they face. Burgess joins us in Context for his weekly opinion, and we investigate the many products originating from this industry. In Dialogue, Mpumelelo takes the discussion further with the exotic leather cluster of South Africa. Any visit to the Klein Karoo will be incomplete without a stopover at Oudtshoorn. This unique town offers a variety of interesting experiences. However, the golden thread that fuels its economy and tourism activities is the world-renowned ostrich industry. Add to that art galleries, festivals, contrasting nature excursions, and some of the best food and entertainment in the country, and it's clear why this region offers something for the entire family. Today, however, we will focus on the flourishing ostrich industry and the impact it has on the community. Did you know Oudtshoorn is the ostrich capital of the world? We visited Piet Klein at the Ostrich Business Chamber, and he told us just how important this industry is to tourism in the region.
Tourism is very, very important for the economy in Oudtshoorn. And ostrich tourism as such is a huge part of tourism for Oudtshoorn. And I think, you know, if you look at the ostrich show farms, they do very well in Oudtshoorn. They are sort of the first visit of most tourists to Oudtshoorn, especially the international tourists coming to Oudtshoorn, is they will definitely visit a show farm. And I think, you know, if you look at the restaurants, for instance, ostrich meat is a very important part of the menu of every restaurant in Oudtshoorn. And I must say we have terrific restaurants in Oudtshoorn.
Did you know ostrich meat is classified as red meat? This is very popular among health-conscious consumers thanks to its low cholesterol and fat content. We visited some of the producers in the area to hear what challenges they face today and what it takes to be a successful producer in the ostrich industry.
I'm into ostrich farming my whole life. I'm the third generation on this farm, farming ostriches. And I love it. I simply love an ostrich, and for the mere reason that feathers. This is my first and only priority on an ostrich, is to produce feathers. We are, I think, 3 to 5 farmers in this area still having good quality feathers in ostriches, and that's why it will always be for me an attractive farming commodity. I love it. I simply love ostriches. When it comes to the risk of ostriches, there are a lot of risks, and especially the biggest sword hanging over our heads is this avian influenza reality that came upon us a couple of years back. I think we had it for 100 years, but then I think science caught up with us, and they could identify exactly what it was. And because of all these risks, there's a lot of farmers that got out of the business. Therefore, it is it's not wise to not diversify in your farming operation. And we've tried to diversify as much as we possibly can. It's very difficult in this area because the only stock commodity that really pays off in Oudtshoorn is ostriches, because we are all farming on actually very small farms. And you don't need a lot of land to farm ostriches on, whereas you need a lot of land for cattle and sheep. But here ostriches works well. That's why it's so concentrated in this area.
I'm the 5th generation on this farm, so I love the ostrich. I've farmed with them since I've been here in 1986 for 30 years now. After the avian influenza outbreak the previous time, it has forever changed the face of the ostrich industry. You had to be in a market where the consumer wants to know where the bird comes from, in other words, the traceability. He wants to for sure know that the food he's eating is safe. And that's where I think the Ostrich Business Chamber, as well as the department, has gone a long way to secure that. With the leather component, we are in the luxury market, so we are competing there. The Gucci's and the Louis Vuittons, they are giving the trend there. So that's why they're doing the most of the products. And we're in the rand-dollar component. And you know the huge volatility about the rand nowadays. For 1 rand change, the impact is around about 350 rand per unit, per ostrich. So it's huge. For a cash flow system on the farm to predict, it's very difficult. But there's lots of opportunities as well. If you put the crust into a finished product and you do the product yourself, there's still much of opportunities available. You had to think about the farming as a business nowadays. There's a lot of pressure. You are operating in the market, especially if you are thinking about the vertical integration into the market. Then you had to find yourself managers to help you. If you haven't got the qualification or the personality to fulfill a certain aspect of your business, you had to find the person. And nowadays, the biggest challenge is to find that you're not supposed to do everything on your own. Find yourself people that can make your business grow and stick with them.
I think for any successful farming operation in South Africa these days, and maybe all over the world, any business operation, is to have a very, very good relationship with the people working for you. And in South Africa specifically, looking at successful farms, you will always see that those people are also have very good relations with their workers. This is of vital importance, and I think you can't go without it. On this farm, we have people that's working for 45, 50 years already. I've got a guy that is so loyal to this operation. He's not working for me, he's working for the farming operation. His son is working for us, his daughter is working for us. Well, it's actually his 2 sons and a grandson also. So that's telling something. Nobody will work for an operation or any business if relations are not good. I think this is vital in any operation to have that kind of relationship.
I think the true value of the agriculture business is underestimated in the job creation industry. Huge jobs can be created if you especially focus on the value chain management. If you can receive some help from the department, from the state itself, to export lesser of the raw product and to export more of the finished product.
I think people should understand the moment that farmers and producers or any farming community, but especially in Oudtshoorn, are under pressure when it comes to the economy. We can't do without a very healthy farming community. That's why it is so important that we do see that the farming community thrive and economically that it is successful.
Oudtshoorn wouldn't be the same without its ostriches. It remains the core of tourism in this region, contributing tremendously towards the community and its people. After the break, Burgess from Landbouweekblad joins us in studio. Welcome back to Nation in Conversation. Please remember to join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. With me is Burgess, Editor-in-Chief of Landbouweekblad. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Rosie.
Who would have thought that the ostrich industry has got so much bling attached to it?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, that often comes as a surprise. You know, our leather is a very exclusive product. It gets used by some of the biggest fashion houses in the world, Prada, Gucci, Louis Vuitton. I mean, Louis Vuitton's Keepall, the iconic Keepall bag, came out, I think it was 2006. It was retailing for $11,000, you know. So, I mean, really exclusive products. And then quite a strange market for South Africans, but I mean, there's a huge market for cowboy boots in the southern USA. And then one mustn't forget about the feathers, you know. There's the Rio Carnival just wouldn't be the same with our ostrich feathers. And then, you know, there are millions of feather dusters in China that all come from our birds. And even sports equipment, you know, in 2010, Puma, the big Mexican sports brand, launched a range of soccer boots at the World Cup. So quite remarkable, all the applications that one has for ostrich products.
Why is there no other poultry, such as chickens, allowed on an ostrich farm?
So ostriches are avians, and they are all susceptible to the various strains of bird flu. And we, at the moment, there's just a whole range of outbreaks of avian bird flu, specifically in the Northern Hemisphere. And the outbreak in 2011 was actually introduced, farmers and processors suspect by wild birds, migrating wild birds that flew in. So to try and minimize that risk, poultry is just not allowed on ostrich farms because they are vectors for the bird flu and can infect the ostriches.
How did the industry recover from that?
So, you know, we lost our export markets for our fresh meat, which was a very lucrative market. That's opened up again, so we are exporting again. But, I mean, we lost quite a lot of shelf space. But, you know, these are very resourceful farmers. You know, they farm in really tough conditions, make a huge contribution to the economy of the small Karoo, Klein Karoo. And you know, they came up with this plan to export pre-cooked meat to the EU, which did help to sort of mitigate the loss of the fresh meat market. And then there's a lot of focus gone into the local market. You know, the local consumption has basically trebled since 2011. So, you know, really innovative farmers that are capable of coming up with great solutions.
Before we continue our discussion with Chris, we visited Klein Karoo International, an ostrich processor and undoubtedly one of the key suppliers of ostrich products in the world. We talked to Charles Du Plessis, Managing Director of Klein Karoo International, about the economic impact of the industry and what they are doing to adhere to regulations, as well as to adapt in the current economic climate. Also interesting is the fact that almost no part of the animal goes to waste.
Oudtshoorn is the ostrich, you know. Even if you look at the tourism industry, tourists come to Oudtshoorn first and foremost to come and look at ostriches and the industry itself. So there's obviously a lot of spin-offs from the industry, people selling curios, people selling dusters, etc. to tourists. So first and foremost, that is where the industry plays a big role. I think clinically, just looking at the ostrich industry per se, from Klein Karoo's point of view, it's about R1 billion almost in turnover that we generate that goes mostly back into either people that are employed by KKI or the farming community. From a numbers point of view, we employ about 1,200 people, of which more or less 200 people are seasonal, the rest are fortnightly and permanent. And the effect economically is about 50 to 60,000 people that gain from KKI's activities or the ostrich industry. I think one of our major challenges the last few years has been the closure of fresh meat exports to the European Union due to the impact of hypopathogenic AI. And that actually forced the industry to look at alternatives. And one of the viable ones that we, let's call it, discovered is to pre-grow the meat, and otherwise the meat is pasteurized. And we had to develop that market from scratch because that doesn't sell in our established retail channels or channels of consumption. So we had to find new customers. We had to develop a product that every customer likes according to his shape and size and ingredients and packaging. And at the end of the day, it's like most things, you know, it's tough when you're in it, but once the product is established, you've got another way to mitigate risk in your business. So, you know, there were months where we were hoping to sell 1 ton, and eventually we got to 250 tons a month in the peak times. But it's slow. It's probably taken us about 4 years to get there. And then the fresh meat opened up, so we had to immediately scale or choke it down because the income from fresh meat is much better than it is from pre-grilled or pasteurized meat. I think what we're also trying to do is we're trying to manage the image of our product very carefully. It needs to remain exclusive. It needs to be seen as stylish and professional. And we're also developing a lot of new products. Now, in the leather business, a new product is either something with a new finish, or it's a more environmentally friendly process that you use in your tanning or in your finishing, what we call finishing, which is essentially dyeing and spraying and polishing the product. So that, and we've placed a lot of focus on that in the past few years. I think eventually what we want to try and achieve is that the ostrich leather is only a medium that carries the new trend or the new look. And you're not just selling ostrich leather per se, but you're also selling a new fashion trend. So yeah, on the leather side, there's been a lot of focus as far as that is concerned. Obviously, that has implications in terms of your operation and infrastructure. It's much more of a boutique type environment. But you know, if you're not changing, you're not going to survive.
What an interesting industry that contributes significantly to the local economy. Chris, would you say that ostrich farming is a uniquely South African industry?
Well, I mean, it's as unique to South Africa as Bafana, and braaivleis, you know. I mean, you know, without the ostrich industry, Oudtshoorn wouldn't be there, you know. And, you know, despite the fact that ostriches are surprisingly adaptable birds, and you can farm them as far afield as Russia, South Africa still produces between 70% and 80% of all the ostrich products in the world, you know. So, you know, these are very innovative farmers farming in really a tough area, making a huge contribution to the economy of the Klein Karoo. And you know, surprisingly, you know, when they lost their export markets to the EU, to come up with a solution of exporting preheated meat, you know, it just sort of speaks to the sort of type of farmer we have. You know, it's really an industry that South Africans can be proud of.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
After the break, Mpumelelo is joined by Nobri Booyzen of the Exotic Leather Cluster for an interesting discussion.
Welcome back to Nation in Conversation. Today we are discussing the exotic leather industry in South Africa. Joining us in the studio is Nobri Booyzen, who is with Exotic Leather South Africa. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And tell us more about this exotic leather industry in South Africa. How big is it?
Okay. Exotic leather in South Africa is from an ostrich point of view, about 70% of exotic leather. And then ostrich, the Nile crocodile, is then the other 30%. In South Africa, that's the only 2 components of exotic leather.
Yes. And what's the role of your organization in the industry?
There's a few things that exotic leather wants to accomplish. Yeah. I think over and above everything is we want to make sure that farming in South Africa is sustainable, and as well that the markets, international markets, grow, as well as job creation and skills development.
Yeah.
In this industry, there's a lot of expert skills needed. So one of our main objectives is to do skills development. And our technical partners in exotic leather, the University of Pretoria, is playing a huge part in this area of development for exotic leather.
What would you say is the proportion that gets exported, that's raw leather that gets exported, and one that we beneficiate or process in South Africa and sell as end products?
That is where ALSA will come in as well. 80% of our exports are raw material. That means that a lot of job opportunities get wasted because the raw materials doesn't get produced further. So our main objective is then to make sure and to promote the end product of this luxury good.
Which means that there's a lot of scope and space for South African entrepreneurs who are interested in developing this kind of leather to end products.
Yes, manufacturing especially, tanneries, we've got a few tanneries, and tanneries is very expensive to set up. So a young entrepreneur won't be able to set up his own tannery, but there are funding for such opportunities. But rather the manufacturing side, and that is manufacturing of the end product, which can be exotic bags or accessories, and making use of exotic leather for fashion garments. There's definitely a huge opportunity to develop those markets.
Well, the government has made it its job to develop entrepreneurs and create jobs. Surely they should have by now seen an opportunity there. Are you working with government on this?
The DTI is the funder of Exotic Leather South Africa, so we do work closely with government. The problem with the industry is it's difficult to get into the market. So it's not like a veggie farmer who can buy a piece of land and start your own veggie farm there. It's very a lot of capital is needed.
But yes. I'm sure even the vegetable farmers will tell you how difficult it is to take their products to market.
That's true.
So what are your strategies to get the products to make sure that the people that invest in this very difficult environment, once they do so, they become competitive? Is there anything you are planning with DTI?
That is one of our projects is around the traceability of this project, and we want to get a step ahead of most of the international markets by developing systems to trace the source of our skins back to the origin, where it comes from. That go hand in hand with sustainable farming.
Well, good luck in that regard. I hope that you will be able to create out of your initiatives some top brands coming from South Africa, made out of leather from South Africa. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Well, that was Nobri Booyzen, who is with Exotic Leather South Africa. And thank you for joining us. Until next week.
Thank you, Mpumelelo. Next week, we take a closer look at the poultry industry in South Africa. Don't miss it. Until then, remember to exercise your rights as consumer and join the conversation. It affects us all. Goodbye.
Nation in Conversation, taking you on a journey through the South African countryside. Proudly sponsored by Monsanto, Nedbank and Senves, in association with Hinterland and NWK.